Hi everybody, I'm French Grandmaster Fabien Libiszewski and welcome back on this video in which I will speak about double pawns in the Nimzo-Indian defense. So we had the first video on this topic where I show the game between David Bronstein and Miguel Najdorf played in 1950 in Candidates Tournament. And in this one we will have a look at a much more recent game between the Spanish Grandmaster David Anton Guerrero and the Ukrainian Grandmaster Pavel Elianov played in 2014 in World Rapid Chess Championship. So, this is the starting position of the Nimzo-Indian defense. So, just to see the first moves, d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4. So, as I said, black wants to have a control about this e4 square, and white cannot push because black would take. So, in this game, white played e3, which is one of the main moves, and just to remind you that Bronstein played a3 first, but it will be the same pawn structure anyway. So, e3 was played, black castled, a3 was played now, black took, white took, and black played b6. So, it's the same pawn structure. White has this weakness on c4. As I said, no pawns can help and protect him, but they have the bishop pair, especially this bishop, and they want to build a strong center. So David Anton played bishop d3, and Elianov played bishop b7, attacking immediately this pawn on g2. And of course, David played f3 to block the bishop, but maybe one idea is to sacrifice the pawn in order to open the g file and play a move like knight e2. I'm not sure it's completely correct, but white will have some play in this position for sure, because they will continue with e4 and maybe some bishop h6 is coming and h4, h5, h6, and white have some play for sure, and black has to be careful in this kind of position. So it might be an idea if you want to play in an aggressive style, but let's go back to the game and let's have a look at f3, which is really typical in this kind of position. So c5 was played, classical method to play with black, blocking the c4 pawn, and then play knight c6. So knight e2 was played, knight c6, e4 now, and good move, knight e8. So the idea is clear, it's to go on d6 and attack c4 in the future, and also at the same time black freezes f pawn to go to f5 if white goes f4, and then avoiding the attack Bronstein played in the game against Najdorf. Here white castled, black played knight a5, and white continues plan with f4, which is a bit too hasty, and I'm sure now you know why, because black can stop it with f5, and we will go back to this, but white should avoid this, and I think that the best move is to play knight g3 now, just bringing the knight here and controlling one more time this f5 square. So f5 isn't possible because white has 3 pieces to attack it and black only 2 to defend. So there is a very famous game in this position, which was also a classical one, between Efim Geller and Max Juve, played in 1953 in the Zurich Candidates Tournament. Yeah, it's a very famous tournament because David Bronstein wrote a very good book about it. And the game continued this way. Black took on d4, white took, and then played rook c8, attacking this pawn. And I like the way Geller played here, because he didn't try to protect the pawn, because I guess it's already lost. I mean, if he played queen e2 anyway, the bishop can go to a6, the knight could go to d6, the queen could go to c7, and it will be too much for this pawn. So white has to give it, like a gambit, and to attack. And he played f4, well played, so now black cannot play f5, so Juve took this pawn. White continued with f5, wanted to play f6 like Bronstein did, so very well played by Juve to stop it with f6, and then rook f4 came in order to play rook h4, queen h5, and it was a very big fight, interesting for both sides, and in the end black won in a very nice style. The game was rewarded with best game prize about this tournament. Actually, there was 2 best game but it was one of the two best. And yeah, if you don't know this game, you should try to have a look at it. It was Geller against Juve in 1953. Anyway, let's go back to the main game. And David Anton played f4 right now, and Pavelyanov played very good move f5, so to block White's attack. Knight g3 was played now, attacking this pawn and protecting e4, but one other very good move from Black's perspective. They played knight d6, protecting this pawn and attacking both c4 and e4. So not that easy to play with White, and they choose to exchange on f5, but like this, you know, they won't have this pawn storm like they had in the Bernstein game. And actually, it's not that easy to give an advice for White here, because any move has its drawback. For example, if they play d5, Black could already take this pawn, like this, even if White will win one pawn back, for example, like this, take, and bishop takes f5. But anyway, it's quite a good position for Black, because I think this knight is stronger than this bishop, who cannot move, and the bishop on b7 is quite good also, and I prefer Black's perspective here, but I'm sure that maybe it's even better to play this kind of position with, let's say, queen f6 attacking this pawn, and let's say that White defend, attacking h7, so g6 to block the attack, and then bishop a6, and I'm not sure how White could defend this pawn on c4, so with a bit of patience like this, not taking immediately this pawn, Black should be clearly better. So let's say next move rook e8 and then bishop a6. So d5 is not that great. Another famous player, famous coach, Chereshevsky, who wrote many books, and is a famous Russian coach, played queen e2 in this position against Kveinis, and Black took, knight take, bishop takes, queen takes, and Black won a pawn like this, but after d5, White made a double attack, and Kveinis played queen c8, protecting everything, but White managed to find some counterplay, and maybe it's even better to play queen f6, attacking this rook, so White has to move it, let's say rook a2, and then rook ac8, I guess it's a much better square for rook than the queen here, and yeah, White hasn't enough compensation for sure. They will try to hold the draw, but clearly Black is better. So queen e2 is not that great, d5 is not that great, and the move played in the game also, because in this position Black is better. You can see that this pawn on c4 is condemned. I don't really know how White could defend it. And White didn't manage to create a strong attack against the Black king. The position is quite closed, so the knights are strong. This bishop c1 cannot go easily into play. So that's the problem for White. Anton played queen b1, rook b1, sorry, queen c7 was played, rook e1, g6 quite solid, protect this pawn. And you can see that all the dark square seems to be weakened, but actually the bishop cannot exploit it, because this pawn on c3 is blocking the bishop on this diagonal. The bishop cannot go to c3, cannot go to d4 because of this c5 pawn, and the pawn on f4 also is blocked. So the bishop c1 is quite doomed, let's say, in this position, and not easy for White to play. Bishop f1 was played, rook a8. I like it because it shows some patience for Black, and they don't hurry in this position. They know that the pawn on c4 will be lost in a few moves, so they don't let White invade on the 7th rank like this. So quite a good move, this rook a8. White played bishop e3, and Black finally won a pawn with knight takes c4. Bishop f2 was played, rook takes c1, queen takes c1, d6, and Black has a safe pawn up. White cannot win the knight like this with double attack, because Black has queen f7, defending everything. So White played queen d1 instead, queen f7 was played, a4, bishop c6, now Black has a new target in this position. Knight e2 was played, queen d7 is quite good, attacking the pawn on a4 with two pieces, and White tried just to do something, but you can see it's much more like desperate stuff. Queen d3 was played, bishop c6, rook a1, bishop e4, the queen moved to g3, knight b3, attacks the rook. Rook to d1, knight bd2, a move I like, because black wants to take this bishop, so no more bishop pair for white, and yeah, black has just 2 points up. So it's technically winning, just be careful to avoid some trap maybe in the position, but it's not that difficult to win. Rook a1 was played, knight takes f1, king takes f1, black played bishop d3, pinning this knight, so at the same time they attack this pawn, but other moves like, let's say, I don't know, a5, pushing the passed pawn was quite good also, but bishop d3 is really strong. Rook d1 was played, queen takes c3, queen e7, queen f6 back. Black is glad to exchange queens because take here by check, and we play an endgame with 3 pawns up, which is easily winning. Queen takes a7 was played, queen b2 threatening the knight, rook takes d3, queen b1 check, double attack, bishop e1, queen takes d3, bishop c3, so white wants to threaten checkmate in 1, and I have to say that after rook f7, white can try to repeat moves like this, so black has to find something. But Elianov did, and he played knight e3 check, king has to move, cannot go to d1, to e1, sorry, because there will be checkmate quite quickly like this, check, and if the king goes there or there, actually the same, queen d3 is checkmate. So king e1 isn't possible. Instead, white went to g1. If they go to f2, then knight d1, and it's a fork, and without this bishop there is no more. Queen g7, of course. So after knight e3, king g1 was played, queen d1 check, the king moved to h2, knight g4 check, king e3, knight f2, and another fork is doing the job. And without the bishop, white cannot attack anymore, and with 1 exchange and 2 pawns down, white finally resigned. And yeah, it was a beautiful game from black point of view, because it shows the strategic idea in this position. So remember to play f5, which is really important to stop f5. And I think that from white's point of view, we saw 2 games, and we see when it was successful and when it was not. And I think it's important to not let black block our center, and white must have some attack, because in this position it's already clear advantage for black. So I hope you enjoyed these videos, and things are now clear on this NIMS open structure. And see you for new videos later. Ciao.